Soll ich was sagen? Hello everybody, please take a seat. We will start in 1 minute. There will be coffee all day long. Hello everybody. The Earth is flat, right? We all agree on that. Raise your hand if you believe the Earth is flat. Really? No, we don't think that. I mean, probably some of us do think that. We can have some discussion afterwards. No, we don't think that. But the point is, even though we all know that the Earth is this wonderful blue marble. We treat it as if it was flat. That's totally weird, right? Why do we do that? Or to put it in a different way, we actually treat the world as if it's this wonderful blue, peaceful marble, when in reality, it's in deep trouble. It's burning. And we seem to ignore that. We seem to not really think about it and act accordingly. Last year at the Knowledge Conference, my introduction was about what we at Project A call the execution gap. The execution gap basically means, and this is a highly unscientific chart, forgive me that, if you look at knowledge, and it can be at basically 0, and then there's a common knowledge, and then there's a professional level, and then there's some visionary level, that usually we talk a lot about the gap between a professional level and a visionary level. That's great. At the Knowledge Conference, we try to focus on what we call the execution gap, and that is the gap between where we really are and a good, solid level. Now, you might think that I jump a little bit forward, backward. What does the execution gap have to do with the Earth being in trouble? I believe it has a lot to do with each other. I believe that the reason why we don't act has a lot to do with us having a problem. I mean, like we hear on TV shows, etc., we hear a lot of visionary stuff, but we don't overcome our personal execution gap to do something. And I know this whole thing is more complex, and you can debate like forever about what's the real truth. But there are a few things that basically, like all scientists, and I mean, like, I would hope that the people who are here believe in science and would not call stuff fake news or witch hunt, but they would really believe what science says. There are a few things that they actually agree upon. That is, if we don't act, temperatures will rise. And when they rise, climate changes. And this is not a linear process, but there will be tipping points when certain processes start and kick off, and then there will be drastic changes. And if these drastic changes come, that will heavily destroy agriculture and fishing grounds. So it will put people into real trouble. So that will impact economies, it will cause starvation, it will cause poverty, it will cause hardship. There's not too much debate about that. There's debate about if Greta Thunberg has hit the right tone, if she said it in the right way. But about the facts behind, there's actually not so much debate. And if this happens, which is likely to happen, this will cause worldwide refugee waves. But like on a scale that we've never seen. I mean, I'm not talking about like what happened in Berlin and Europe over the last years, and then all people go crazy and they vote for stupid political parties and stuff like that. Talking about a whole different scale. Again, this is like what people say that will happen. And there's a big likelihood these people will not just like leave the shores of their countries and just have nothing to eat and say, okay, that's how it is. It's likely that this will cause in the whole world war. And I wonder, how can we allow this to happen? I mean, that's like really bad, right? And this is Enzo. Enzo's my son. I love him very much. He's 2.5 years old. And everything that we've just seen, that will happen approximately at the time when he is our age. I mean, like our age. I guess the average here is a little bit younger than me. But let's say, raise your hand if you're between 25 and 35. Yeah, that's like 80% of the people here. So when Enzo is your age, that will be the world we will be looking at. So this is how it links. How can we know all that and not close the execution gap, do something? Well, like in always with execution gaps, there are a lot of good reasons not to act. It's just very large, it's very complex, and you just don't know where to start, how to start, what to do. Also, you ask yourself, do I personally really make the difference here? Then, of course, there's the belief somebody will solve it. Politics, NGO, somebody will, I mean, that's how it always was in history, right? Somebody will go and solve it. And after all, is it really that bad? I mean, we are hearing all these like dramatic talks about the world is like going under since like forever and never really happened yet, right? What? There are very good reasons to act. And it's exactly the things that we just saw turn around. There are a lot of really good ways to start. Everybody makes a difference. Nobody else will solve it. And it is really that bad. Plus, there are these children, right? I mean, like, we want to give them some future. Here, now, and today, we will start and act. Not only about the topics that we will discuss in the Knowledge Conference, but also about that particular topic. Because of that, I'm super happy to welcome Christian from Ecosia.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Rainer. That was a bit gloomy, but unfortunately, it also really is true. I guess my role today is to give a little bit of hope in this mess that we're in at the moment. So before I tell you how we can actually fill the execution gap, I will briefly tell you just who I am and what I do. So my name is Christian and I'm the founder of Ecosia. Who of you already knows Ecosia or uses this? Wow, this is so awesome. You're all great. And the others, you will use it soon, I think, as well. So yes, so we're a search engine. We're based here in Berlin. Basically, Ecosia works like Google. So you type in your search terms, and when you hit the search button, you see your search results. Like Google, we also display advertisements right next to the search results. And when you click on these ads, then we make money. Yeah, so great. So far, everything is the same like Google. But the big difference is that we use the income from these advertisements to actually plant trees. Why plant trees, right? So we plant trees because we can, by planting trees, we can turn completely degraded landscapes, like you see here on the left, into fertile land again. And by that, not only give animals a habitat again, not only give people jobs because they're planting trees, but also provide a future for the people that are living in these areas, because thanks to the fertile soil, they can now make a living and build a future for themselves again. So that's why we want to plant a lot of trees at Ecosia. Yeah, and since we're at the startup conference, here's some vanity metrics. So we currently have around 25 million in annual revenue. We have 10 million users. We are among the 450 biggest websites on the planet, and I think actually in Berlin we are number 2 after SoundCloud when it comes to traffic. We're doing this with a rather small team of only 45 people, and we're seeing a lot of growth at the moment, plus 100% so far in 2019. But our most important metric is the one down there. We have already planted over 68 million trees, and we're actually, I think, today gonna reach 69, which I think is really awesome. Thank you. So yeah, we are a typical Berlin startup, really nice people. If you want to find out more about us, there are many great videos on our social media channels. Daniel, who I see there, has, who's the director of communications at Project A, has consulted us on how to do even more awesome stories. So please check out our website, start using it. If you're looking for a job, apply, we are hiring. And yeah, there are a few other things later, but I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But today, actually, I don't want to talk about Ecosia so much, but about the bigger problem or the bigger topic that concerns all of us. Who of you knows what this is? Just shout. I didn't hear anything, but I hope somebody said climate change or temperatures or something like that. Yes, exactly. So this is pretty much the more beautiful version of this. And this shows the global temperature change over the last decades. And I would say I'm generally a very positive person. I don't easily get upset or scared, but this chart really scares the shit out of me. If we keep going like this, then all the scenarios that Rainer just mentioned will happen, and it will happen within our lifetime. And by the end of the century, if we keep going like this, billions of people are gonna die, and our planet might be completely uninhabitable. So this is, for me, completely unacceptable. We have to do something about this. But I promise not to be too gloomy, so here the good news. Now the good news part is starting. There is actually a technology that can help us to solve this problem. And this technology is an amazing machine. It basically self-assembles itself. It is completely powered by solar energy, and it can suck CO2 out of the atmosphere. Does anybody know what this technology is? Plants, trees, yes, exactly, that's right. Trees can really help us to solve this problem. And the good thing is, we have a lot of space on our planet to plant trees. The green areas in this map indicate the areas where trees not only can be planted, but actually should be planted to improve the fertility of the land. So there's no competition at all. And we have space for 1.2 trillion trees on our planet, which is really a lot. And if we plant these trees, we're not only going to solve basically topics like poverty, shortage of water, the biodiversity crisis, food scarcity, but we're also to a large extent going to solve climate change. So there was a recent study by the University of Zurich that says that planting trees is actually a cost-effective and scalable method to address climate change. And it is, if you look at how much it costs to take a ton or reduce a ton of CO2 from the atmosphere, it's much more effective than renewable energy and electric cars, which I think are great, but really compared to trees, they are not that effective. So yeah, I hope that by now everybody is convinced that trees are awesome. Who thinks that trees are awesome in Germany? Just check. Or there are a few hands still not in the air, but I think hopefully we can still solve that by the end of the presentation. Hello. Yes, so I have some good news for you, but before I tell you what the good news are, let me briefly talk about Madagascar. Madagascar is a small, well, actually quite a big island, but it looks small next compared to Africa. It's split away from the African continent around 50 million years ago. And since then, on Madagascar, a complete unique ecosystem has evolved. So 90% of the species that live in Madagascar are actually unique to Madagascar, so you can't find them anywhere else. Madagascar, until, let's say, a few hundred years ago, was completely forested and covered with rainforest. But by now, most of that forest is actually gone. And if you remember, I mean, green looks really nice on this map, but green actually means that we should plant trees in these areas. So what most of Madagascar actually looks like now is this. So you used to have landscapes that were completely forested. Basically, all of the trees have been cut down, and now you just have bare soil. And when it rains, you already see the consequences there. There are a few craters that are currently starting to show. And these craters are basically caused by water that is taking the soil, the fertile soil, with it. So because of that, you can actually, when you look at Madagascar from space, you can actually see that the ocean around Madagascar is completely red because all of the soil, the fertile soil, is getting washed away. So because of that, you now have droughts in Madagascar, you have food shortages, and what I think is also a huge problem, a huge biodiversity loss. Basically, all the animals that live there are losing their habitat, which is a real shame because if they die out if they get extinct on Madagascar, then they basically get extinct on our entire planet. So we have species like this cute lemur that are currently about to go extinct. And personally, I don't want to live in a world where this cute animal is going extinct. So I think we really have to do something about it. So now is the good news. We at Ecosia, we're trying to do something about this. We have already planted millions of trees on Madagascar, and we're actually planning to plant hundreds of thousands of trees more this year. What you see here is a picture that has been sent via WhatsApp actually from one of the people who are actually working in one of the tree nurseries in Madagascar. And these are the little seedlings that we're currently kind of nurturing to plant still by the end of this year. What you don't see on this picture actually is that there's still some space left to add additional trees. And that's why I'm here. Because today you have actually the opportunity to fill your personal execution gap when it comes to tackling climate change. It's the first time today that we actually offer people to plant trees with Ecosia other than just searching with our search engine. So you're a few of the privileged people here who can actually now give money directly to one of our tree planting projects. And by doing that, you would not only save the cute lemur, but you would also improve the lives of hundreds of people who are living in that area and not only get paid for planting trees so that they can generate an income for their families, but also can really build up a better future for themselves and have fertile land again in their areas. So what we did today for this conference, we set up a crowdfunding campaign, a GoFundMe crowdfunding campaign. Currently, there are only 20 euros in it, but I think this will quickly change, and I hope this will change. You can plant a tree for only 30 cents. And I mean, imagine how it would feel like if by the end of the day you could tell your friends that today you planted hundreds of trees. How awesome would that be? We at Ecosia, we're going to give 100% of the income that is generated through this campaign directly to the tree planting project, so we're not taking any share. And I really hope that you fill your personal execution gap today and that you help us raise some money for trees in Madagascar. Thank you very much.
Our partners. And now I'll do something that is awful, that you should never do, but I'll do it anyhow. So, Schnittker-Müllmann partners, Microsoft for Startups, CrossEngage, Dixa, Henkel X, and the Silicon Valley Bank have partnered with Project A in order to finance this event. The total cost of the event, now comes the part that you should never do, but it's like between 250 and 300,000 euros. So if you are here like 1,000 people, I guess, that is like 250 to 300 euros per person. And you can guess that if you run such an event as a profitable business, you would put some margin on top and the ticket would cost like 500 euros. And usually at such an event, there wouldn't be like all the free drinks and food and lunch and party in the end and all that. And I know that sounds really awful to put that together and to say it like that, but I really want us to hit that donation target. So think about it. Today, you probably saved something between 300 and 500 euros. Take a fraction of that and please donate it. Please go to project-a.com/ecosia. I'll also on the WhatsApp channel share the link and donate. And once you did that, go to the Ecosia stand that is over there and fetch one of these green stickers and put it onto your badge, please. Don't get the sticker without donating. Donating first. And then talk to each other. I mean, like this is a conference, right? It's all about like learning a little bit, but also a lot of networking. A good opener for such a talk is, oh, you already donated, you have the sticker. Or an even better opener, oh, you don't have the sticker yet. Why? Some logistics. We have one main stage, we have 5 workshop rooms. Workshop room 1 is through that door in the back. All the other workshop rooms are, you go out here, and short before you hit the reception, you go right into the Schwutz. There is a talent acquisition area. Our recruiters are up there on the gallery. So if you're interested in working with Project A, that's a good place to go. Toilets are in the back, so if you go through this door, there's on one side is the workshop room, on the other side you go to the toilet. There will be a coffee break, there will be lunch, dinner, everything is served here in the main hall. Please be on time for the talks. If it's full or if you're late, please stay outside. There aren't like doors really that we can close or so. It's just super disturbing when people try to rush in after the talk has already started or when just nobody fits anymore. Don't worry if you can't attend something. Most of the talks we will record so you can actually watch it afterwards. If you have impressions, share them, take photos, etc. This is our hashtag, please use it. And very important, join our WhatsApp channel. On your badge, you will find a barcode, and if you scan it, then you will get to the respective site, and then you can just join there. Whenever we have any changes today, we actually already have one program change. Whenever there are any changes, they will be communicated through this WhatsApp channel. So this is really helpful. We will send the message with the link to the donation, and after that, strictly like stick to program changes, anything that is really crucial to know. And other than that, please enjoy the day.
Great to see you all here. I mean, I've been in this industry now for 18 years. I've always very openly shared my knowledge. I hope you'll enjoy it with us, and hopefully you'll come back next year, probably in a slightly bigger setting than this year to accommodate for the interest.
something new. Today on this program you will hear gospel and rhythm and blues and jazz. All those are just labels. We know that music is music. All of our people got a soul. Our experience determines the texture, the taste, and the sound of our soul. All of us are one people, singing our music, popping our finger, and doing our thing.
Okay, hello, hello. Can we quickly check if all the microphones are working?
Hello? Yeah,
Yeah, Meera is
Hello?
working. Katy?
I think so. Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, Uwe?
Thank you.
All right, welcome to the panel about how can I make my organization more diverse. We will have the slight logistical problem that I will confront my dear panel guests with stuff that I will put up here on the screen, and I will ask you to actually comment on that or answer or debate about that. So that's why I've chosen this setup. So please then try at that moment to turn around and look there. I don't know if you can see enough there on this side. So thanks all for coming here. Thanks for watching this panel. And maybe we can do a super short introduction. Meera, you want to start?
Good morning, everyone. I've been working with startups for 10 years now. I most recently worked in the VC space before moving into consultancy. I believe that there's a lot about startup culture and structure and the system in general that needs to be changed. Diversity is just one of them. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Hey, I'm Katy. I work at APX, which is the early stage VC from Axel Springer and Porsche, but I'm actually leaving there in a couple of weeks to start my own startup. So for me, being a female founder and like seeing how startups grow is really important.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Uwe. I work with Project A since the beginning of the company. I look at a lot of VC and startup stuff, and I think for the past year or so, I would say, has been quite an interesting journey for us when it comes down to the to all aspects of diversity, and very much looking forward to discuss this with you guys and hopefully get some input from everybody else as well.
Yeah, I'm Rainer. I also work at Project A, and as Uwe said, diversity is something that we care a lot of, and we have made that a focus topic for our company for half a year, where we said everybody has to do the utmost to increase diversity at our company. And after this half a year that we focused on that, obviously doesn't end, but we want now to carry it through the history of our company and continuously get better at it. And yeah, I would like to start with a very basic question. Which aspects or which categories of diversity really matter? I mean, I've put like some up here: gender, education, origin, age, network, sexual orientation, personality, etc. Which ones do you think are really important to make your company a better company, or also society a better society?
The first thing that I'd like to address is something that I hear a lot from underrepresented groups in Germany, is that in Germany there seems to be a confusion that diversity equals gender. And that's not the case. It's so much broader than that. It's much, much more nuanced. And it's also not just about having more people of color either. It's not just what you can see, it's what it does to your company culture.
Yeah.
So I think they're all important, and I'm hesitant to say that one of them isn't, or what's more important. I don't know, I see it two ways. So coming to Germany, I moved here 6 years ago, and I moved here thinking it was going to be great to be a woman in the workplace because of Angela Merkel. Like that was it's like, oh, you guys have a chancellor, it's going to be fine. And then I moved here and I was like, what the fuck? Where are all the women? So I think it's exactly what you said. Diversity is not gender, but in Germany it still is. And I still think this is a huge problem that we need to work on. And we should remember that Berlin isn't Germany as well. So I think in Germany it really is still gender and getting that 50-50 split, and then also knowing that gender is not binary as well. So like, but Germany is very behind when it comes to diversity as a topic. But yeah, exactly what you said. Diversity is not gender, it's also color, it's sexuality, it's your background, and I think that these are also really important. Like, it doesn't matter if you've gone to university, it doesn't matter your economic background, they are really important in bringing and building companies that are going to excel.
It's a fascinating question. I thought about this for a while because for me, this whole diversity question is a question of fairness and justice in a way. So it's pretty easy if you kind of don't want to deal with the whole diversity question. Maybe you're confronted with your gender diversity to kind of say, well, what about ageism? What about single versus married? And I can somehow understand this, you know, that why stop there? But at the same time, it can't be an excuse to not start somewhere. So sometimes I think when the discussion gets too heated about, well, which groups do we now want to include how, I think it can also just be an excuse to kind of dodge doing anything at all. So I think the gender issue is super important. Many other issues are also very important. And you probably can't solve, just for practical reasons, you can't solve them all at the same time. So you might as well start somewhere, or you have to start somewhere. So to sum this up, I think all of them are important. Gender probably is a very dominant one. I mean, for us in the company, I think this is a very obvious one that we want to work on. It doesn't mean that the other ones are not important, but I think you have to start somewhere.
I completely agree. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
But having said that, I think we should avoid getting into the box ticking, because as soon as you start trying to tick boxes, then it takes you into tokenism. And it's a really important mentality to have as an organization, that there's a distinction between being a diverse organization and an organization that champions diversity. Like, if that is really in the culture of who you are as an organization, it's organically going to show across the rest of the organization and your culture, and you will hire accordingly, and people will be able to see that from the outside accordingly. So first of all, I would actually shift away from this mentality entirely.
Yeah, I think it's really diversity of mind, right? Like, the first thing that everyone in this room, including all of us on stage, should be doing is checking our unconscious bias and like really understanding where do we see biases in our lives. And I think diversity for me is also a thought process. It's how I think. And I think when you have that ingrained in you from the beginning, it isn't checking boxes, but it's actually you're championing, you're wanting to help other people rise up.
Yeah. As a next step, I would like actually to go a little bit back and say, how much can we actually really achieve in the professional life, and where can we actually go? And I think it probably all starts with education. So if this is something that really happened to me, I really saw that. So I was in a tram going through Prenzlauer Berg, and there was this perfect family, 2 kids, different skin color. They were, like, from the way they talked, it seemed like they were very well educated. The parents were even wearing Patagonia clothes, you know, like they were...
So they were VCs?
Sorry?
So they were VCs?
They were just given money by LPs automatically because they're wearing them.
And then the following happened. That it shocked me, but I felt like it doesn't shock anybody else on the tram, which is the kids started to sing. It's in German, but I guess you get what it means. Xing Shang Chong, ein Chines im Karton, and so on. I found that very shocking. It seems like that this is a rhyme that is out there that children sing, like across society. And I found that very weird. It seemed to me like they're little children and they're already doing something that I would see as a little bit of a racist thing, or very much probably. Nobody really cared. And then I didn't understand how the rhyme continues, so I checked and Googled it, or Ecosia did. And then I went to the website of Spreadshirt.
Oh,
Spreadshirt is not known to be a very bad merchant, or I missed it, but you can actually buy these shirts there as t-shirts, as caps, as everything. And all I want to make sure we agree that we have a problem here.
Yeah, I think it speaks to fundamentally a lack of awareness. And that lack of awareness comes from not having a diverse enough environment, and you're not interacting with diverse enough people in your daily life. Because if you had people in your life that would be hurt by something like this, then it would already be ingrained in you that you would never say that.
Yeah.
And that's why we need diversity.
Yeah. This is not an innocent joke, right?
No. It's, yeah, I mean, casual racism, but it's racist.
Yes. No, this is super racist. Like,
Yeah, it's super racist. I think what you said is super spot on, that probably like a lot of this stuff, you know, people have been singing, things like that, and probably kids and maybe even the adults don't even realize how racist it is, because they never were encountered with someone who actually takes offense. I mean, you know, if in all of my social circles no one is, you know, who is someone who would identify as being offended by that,
Yeah.
then it probably doesn't feel as racist to me as it actually is. And it's very interesting for me to speak, because my partner is American, so she has a lot of different views on a lot of those issues. Just in Germans probably sometimes don't have a sensitivity big enough for those issues, just because they're not confronted with people who are actually offended by that. And then it's easy to say, well, it's just culture, we've had this all the time, you know, nobody ever was offended. Yeah, but the times are changing, and I think now we live together with people, which is a very good thing, who come from different backgrounds, who actually are offended by that.
Yeah. So I'm very happy that we all agree. Also, anybody disagrees? It's a problem, right? Okay.
Just one thing in the defense of Spreadshirt, the company itself. So they of course should control this better, but it's not Spreadshirt themselves probably really deciding this is a good business, but it's more of a marketplace model. I'm still saying they probably should not do that kind of stuff, but it's maybe not as bad as being negligent about your marketplace as about, you know, actually deciding let's just make racist merchandise. But the effect is the same, of course.
And then I stepped out of the tram and I saw this soda club. Again, this is Prenzlauer Berg. Very politically correct neighborhood. And there's the soda club. And they have this great offer for a party. Ladies free entry and free drinks until 1 at night. How does that make you
I mean,
feel?
I'm a lady, so for me this is not bad, right? And we have to put up with a lot of bullshit
I was
when we go to a
gonna
club
say, when you're
anyway.
in a club, the kind of stuff that we have to put up with, I mean, this is just compensation as far as I'm concerned.
Really,
like,
this
you're
is
not
really
walking
like-
around a club getting groped, so. Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's a lot of sexism behind it. The idea is that you can get a lot of women in, but I'm gonna be on this side because we have to put up with so much bullshit when we go to clubs that like getting in for free and getting free drinks kind of makes up for a little bit.
And also, women still aren't paid as much as men are. So give us a break every now
we
and
don't
again.
make as much as men, so we need a couple extra breaks here.
I'm
and there.
sorry, but if you're going to cut some dollar signs off of some stuff sometime, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. You want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a party I would necessarily want to go to because it just feels all around tacky and shitty. The whole setup, and I do think it is, you know, I can see how this is good for women, but also it kind of feels like, hey, all the guys, please come in, you know, after 1 o'clock because then everybody's gonna be drunk. So I think that's kind of how this whole story feels to me. I don't personally like it. I wouldn't go there. But probably it's the kind of
Oh, I would
stuff we
also
have to
not go to this
Yeah,
club.
I-
but
I
think
feel like I
on
now have to
principle-
justify I'm also not going to go to this club.
Yeah, it's probably
But
not.
I think it's a different industry. Like you're looking at food and beverage industry, right? And this is like building this. If you had this as a startup, this would be super fucked up.
Yeah.
But this is a bar, a nightclub. This is an industry that is still super behind as well. And I think it's really hard to be able to look at diverse. Like I think we all agree. Okay, it's nice for women that we don't have to pay for shit, for sure.
Yeah.
Since we don't make as much money as men, we would also actively not go somewhere because this is super seedy and like it's probably full of creepy guys as well.
This is the thing. You have to also question the motivation, I think, behind something like this. Why are they trying to get women in there? Why are they trying to give them free drinks?
Yep.
It's to get more women in the venue in the first place. It's to get them more drunk. And at the end of the day, whose benefit is that for? So.
I mean, that makes women part of the product that they're selling at this club. That makes women part of the product that this club is selling, right? Because they will make money on the men who come because of that.
Yeah. So like, I don't like this, but I don't have a problem with the principle of making things cheaper for women.
Okay. So my thought was not really like it's an unfair advantage to women. The way and that's why I brought these two examples, both with kids and this one is, there you are a company, but you're not like 100% disconnected from the world that surrounds you. And there's a lot going on that like creates a view that we have on the different aspects of diversity and the way we see people of different nationality, people of different age, etc. And then you go into your company and there it's like you have to like set a counterpoint probably against what the rest of society is like putting on us as pictures. How about ageism? So this is something that a friend of mine told me about, and here's what happened. So a Berlin backyard, and it's one of these backyards where there are startups only. Like every single former apartment is now a startup office. And then a well-dressed elderly man comes in, and there's a group sitting there, and who work at the startups, and they just say, well, he's totally lost. He just can't really belong here, right? He's because of the age, it's very clear he does not belong to this backyard where only startups work.
I think startups miss a huge market in not targeting content towards people who are over a certain age group. I mean, it's actually quite logical that if you're selling something that's a high-end product, the people who can afford it are not the ones who are working at the startup, but actually the ones who are in their late 40s, early 50s. I was at the Cher concert last night, and she's 73. And she's still performing on stage, and it was a really big reality check that we've probably all systemically grown up understanding that you retire at a certain age and that there are certain age groups for certain things, but actually it doesn't matter. It's really not about your age, but understanding that you are capable of doing anything you want whenever you want, and it doesn't matter what your age is. I think what startups miss is understanding that this is a really big market to tap into. And doesn't matter what age you are, you can still be working at a startup I mean, there's also a startup based in Vienna that actively hires people over 60 to go back into startups and help them grow because they've gone through the last 40 years of building companies. And anyway, I think the number is 43 is the best age to be a founder because you have enough relevant experience to create a sustainable company. So I think ageism is a really big problem when it comes to diversity, and it's not one that's talked about enough.
Yeah.
Agree.
Want to add something?
Is this a question about hiring more older people in startups?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I don't think I've ever worked in a startup that's actively looked to hire an older person. Because it seems irrelevant, because I think that there are questions about will they fit into the company culture, and nobody's looking to hire anyone who's older, for sure, so it's a problem.
I mean, we did have good experiences here.
You hired me, and
exactly.
So I drew the age at Project A probably drastically upwards.
Exactly, yeah. No, but we had overall, I think we had good experiences here and there, punctual ones, where just because of the specificity, is that a word, of the startup, we needed expert knowledge plugged in. And that was a good entry point, and for people also who are older. And typically that worked pretty well. I mean, if you invest a little bit in the research for people who actually want to be in a startup, and then a bit of tandem building and stuff like that. So it did work out pretty well here and there. But to be honest, we never really made a broad push into this. Yeah, so far we were pretty egoistic about it, I guess, saying, hey, there's a specific need, a specific skill set we need that young people just don't tend to have because some specific industry domain focused thing, and then we benefited from that, but we didn't push into, we didn't make this into a broader initiative yet.
Sorry, I was going to say, it's also logical that we should all be working on this topic because we're all going to be old at some point.
I know.
None of us want to be treated like shit when we're old, right? We all want to feel like we still have value. So if we start working on it instinctively ourselves now, when we get to the age of, I'm kidding, when we get to the age of 50, 60, 70, we also want to still have value, right? And so we should be actively trying to help people in the workplace to be able to feel part of the culture, because we're the ones who are going to be affected by it in a couple of years.
Yeah. There is probably, for early stage startups, there's probably an unfortunate correlation between the skills that you're looking for and younger generations. But I mean, probably when you grow, then you can probably also grow the diversity in your company easier.
I think also you have to take into account what customers you're trying to reach. If you're just trying to reach people of a certain demographic and they're not above a certain age group, then it might not seem relevant to you. But I can think of very few businesses for whom that is the case. Older customers still have a lot of spending power. Yeah. They're still active consumers of a lot of consumer goods that are on the market right now. So if you don't know how to speak to them, and this is a crucial point about why diversity is important for your organization, if you don't know how to speak to your customer, you're not going to know how to reach them, and you're not going to know how to speak to them if they're not represented within your organization. Yeah.
I would like to look at equality versus equity. This is a picture that is very much around. I think what it tries to show is you can give the same chances to everybody, but then people just have themselves a different starting point. So you can basically work on the starting point, everybody having the same chance, or you can give uneven starting points and try to have an evened out result. And when I look at companies trying to increase diversity, this is very often actually a problem that they face. They don't really know to go the left or the right way. And what I also hear a lot is that this actually doesn't matter, because the truth is that those who actually have the biggest advantage in the first place also then get more advantage on their journey, so it doesn't really matter. Just do something that makes the situation better. And to give an actual example, the following, and again, this is an example out of my group of friends, and their HR manager talked to me and actually asked me for advice. And the situation was, they didn't have enough women in the leadership, and they thought about offering specific leadership trainings for women only. What do you think about that? Good thing, bad thing, fair?
I have a lot of thoughts about that.
Sorry?
I have a lot of thoughts about that. So, firstly, it's a question of redressing the balance. And when you look at hiring in an organization, one of the reasons why there is so much disparity and you don't see enough diversity is you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, but the candidates are not qualified enough. Of course, they're not qualified enough if you keep on hiring the same archetype of candidate and they keep getting the more experience and they become more and more qualified, then there are always going to be people who are left at the bottom. So something in the hiring pipeline, for sure, it has to change. You need to start taking chance on people who may not have as much experience, but they could stand to learn from that experience, and then you start to redress that balance. The same goes for leadership training. So one of the things I wanted to say up here is I get quite tired of being asked to justify why organizations should care about diversity and inclusion, because the fact of the matter is we're all entrepreneurs, and if anything affects your business, if there is any other problem that affects your business, you figure it out, because you know that it's important to your business, it's impacting your business and the bottom line. The reason we're still talking about this as a topic is because you don't see it as a big enough problem, you don't see it as a big enough issue, you don't care enough about it because it doesn't affect you. So what is really important, if you want to fix this, put people in leadership positions whom it does affect, who do care about it, and who will figure out how to fix it. And that's why leadership training for women, people of color, any other underrepresented groups is so important in an organization, because you want to fix this issue, they're the only ones who are going to figure out how to fix it for you, because you're just going to keep talking about it because you don't understand, with due respect.
Want to add something?
I wouldn't have an issue with that. I mean, I would be, I don't see a problem, a structural problem, if we would offer leadership programs for women only. I think, again, coming back to my point earlier about what about this then, what about that then, I think it's a pretty easy way out. If you are born in the month of January, February, or March, in a lot of sports, it makes a fundamental difference compared to if you're born in December, November, or October. That has something to do with what are the cutoff points for how youth groups are kind of formed. Completely random, but basically in all national teams, in a lot of sports, there are more people who are born in January, February, March than December, October, November. Pretty weird. And it's kind of similar to me that we should kind of break this up and kind of give all people a similar chance. And if that means that for the time being, to exactly get that momentum going, that women get in those positions, I have no issue with that. I think that would be good. If then people come and say, oh, this group gets a leadership training, we also want one, then have that group come and then we can discuss that. I don't think this is a structural negative thing for a lot of other people. I think breaking up those cycles just as the super random separation of people into what month they are born, and that determines their likelihood of achieving a professional sports career, I think that has to be broken up as well, and that's why I wouldn't have an issue with that.
I'm still processing my own thoughts. I have so many feelings on this topic. I mean, I think you covered a lot, and I also agree with everything you said. The one thing I would add in, this topic is a systemic topic. So why do we have to offer leadership trainings for women or people of color? We have to because women do not have the confidence. That's why there's so many, I host a lot of events on salary negotiation, and I'm always surprised how many people are there and how many people have a problem with this. And it's because we're not brought up systemically the same way as boys are. Like, we're taught to save differently, we're taught to spend money differently, even if we're taught in school that it's equal, maybe at home it's not like that. So I think that when we talk about diversity, a lot of the time we're always talking about how can we solve it right this very second instead of trying to play the long game. And for me, the long game is actually going back, and we should all be part of giving back to schools and universities to help the next generation not be in this situation. My little sister is 3, and I don't want her to be sitting on a stage like this when she's my age, which is in 27 years, because it's not okay that she'll have to go through that. We should be able to, fix this problem, and it's not about fixing it in the workplace. It's not just about getting mentors out there or role models. I think this is a very easy and superficial thing to do. I think it's about tackling it through policy. Having equal, it's not just equal pay, it's having like equal paternity and maternity leave. It really is like having the equal pay. It's about having quotas, and it's about systemically going back and making sure that from an early age that girls and boys are educated the exact same way.
And on the topic of it being a systemic issue as well, offering leadership training for women, who gets to make that decision? This is a systemic issue that women are not sitting around having this conversation about, oh, should we get more leadership training? It's people in positions of power that get to make those decisions, and the people in positions of power are not women who are asking for this. So if you have the opportunity and you have the privilege, and that's a very contentious word, but if you get to sit around talking about this as an idea because it's something that doesn't affect you, that is your luxury, that is your privilege. If you get to debate whether this is a conversation that you want to participate in or not, that is your privilege. We don't get to talk about, oh, like, should we have this? Like, no, this is something that's happening to us every day. This is our life. So if you get to be in a position where you get to make that decision, please use that.
Yeah, and I think I don't think women need leadership training. I think we're pretty fucking good at it. I think what we need is the positions, and I think we need to be recognized to have those positions.
No shit.
Like, we're girlfriends, and we're wives, and we're mums. We have been in leadership positions since day one. We know what we're doing. Like, we can balance and multitask better than men can. We're, like, able to do, no offense, guys, but we are able to do a lot more with a lot less, if you think about it. So, less trainings, more senior titles, more management, more seats at the table. And I think you're right. Once you have that seat, that's a privilege, and pay it forward.
Yeah.
And there's something else I'd like to add. Sorry, I know we're running on time, but there's something that I see a lot with the organizations that I work with, the teams that I work with, which are mostly men, and you have like maybe a woman on the team. And what I see over and over again is it's like Neverland. It's like the Lost Boys and Peter Pan, who's the CEO, and Wendy, who is the woman on the team. Everyone relies on her. And every time I see this, eventually the woman leaves because she's like, I don't want to be everyone's babysitter. I don't want to be everyone's mom. I just want to do my job. And she moves to an organization where she is actually able to do her job. And if you're relying on women that much in your organization to basically be the cornerstone of your culture, then 100% they should be getting more leadership opportunities.
Thanks a lot. You can applaud that. I try to be here in a neutral position, but thanks a lot. These are the partners of Project A.
Isn't this you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay then.
Do we have
that's
a
a lot
problem?
of white
with them?
dudes.
We have, we definitely don't have a style choice problem, I would say. Just dressing wise. Apart from that, of course, it's a massive problem. It's a massive problem, I think, in this team. It's a massive problem in the whole industry. And I think that needs to be fixed and it needs to be addressed. And,
how are you planning on fixing it?
that's a very good question, because a few years ago, we basically had the chance to get in new people into the partnership team, and we looked for quite a long time, and it ended up to being again two guys who basically joined the team. very, I guess, even especially homogeneous with like a similar university background. We had known those people for a long time. The process itself for the partnership search itself is of course very complex. It takes a long time. Investors are very specific about it, and they really want to make sure that this team works out. You kind of like sign a key. It's also, funnily enough, it's called a key man clause. It used to be called a key man clause. It's now called a key person clause, but it only changed recently. That it basically, if somebody leaves, the whole team, the investors can basically pull away their money. And we specifically looked for women candidates on this one, but in the end, we didn't do it.
Did you speak to the women to find out? Did you speak to women to find out why they weren't applying or why you couldn't find the right caliber of women?
So we did speak to women candidates. We did speak to people who are like in the executive search team or like in the executive search industry for specifically those positions. And the answer was pretty easily, well, there's a shortage of candidates. You know, you just don't have enough candidates. It's a question, of course, of our comfort level. It's a question of the investors who want to make sure that the person that joins the team is what they call bankable, right? So they want to be, they want to be convinced that this person basically has the necessary experience and that everybody guarantees, yes, this is going to fly. And that is a big issue. Some of the VC investors I consider to be role models for myself. Two of them actually are women. So I think those people exist, definitely. And obviously there's no reason why women shouldn't be just as good at this job as anybody else. But in the end, we didn't get there. We didn't get there because we didn't have enough candidates. We interviewed some people, but ultimately decided that this is probably not going to be the right fit, and then went with those two guys.
I know a female GP who's a woman of color who was recently let go from the fund after she came back from maternity leave.
Is she in Berlin?
I can't say. Yeah, but it's a problem.
It is a massive problem.
Is it an LP problem?
Come again?
Is it an LP problem?
No, it's not. No. I mean, I wouldn't just. I don't want to push this only on the LPs. I think LPs, again, it's part of the reason and part of a good excuse to kind of be saying, you know, this is what we're trying to do. I think what Senator Warren is doing in the United States is very interesting by kind of like pushing it from a mega LP perspective, essentially, how they want to funnel funds into the hands of GPs, so general partners, venture capital people that are of color or are women. What we try to do now, at least, is LPs, for the better part, if we want to give them some credit, are really concerned about succession strategies, right? Because they're not looking into only investing in this bunch of dudes, but kind of figuring out how does the franchise look like in the long run. So we defined a pretty big, well, like it was part of the pitch to our LPs. This is how our succession strategy looks like. At the moment, the pool of people who would potentially become investing partners is at least 50-50 male-female. This is obviously only a small start. We're happy about that, and if you obviously again a confirmation why women aren't any worse, like structurally worse at this job than men. That's obviously nonsense. That's the thing that we're doing at the moment, but like when this was happening 3 years ago or so, that obviously wasn't a great moment, I think, for the advancement of diversity in this industry.
We are a little bit running out of time due to the really good input from you, so thanks a lot for that. So I will jump over the next two topics that we had here and want to close with a question of how to best approach that wider topic. There are companies and there are leaders who say, I accept diversity, and then there are those who say that's not enough. You have to embrace it. I think this is where Project A positions themselves. We made embrace diversity one of our company values. And then some people say you have to enforce it. It's not enough to embrace it. It won't happen by itself. Even if you embrace it, you really have to like force some things in until you just have the result. Maybe as a last statement from each of you, what do you think is the right approach to that?
I think all three. So I think they're all kind of interlinked together. You have to accept it personally that you are like behind this topic, because if you're not, to be honest, you're an asshole. It's that simple. So you have to understand your own bias and you have to accept it. And then you have to embrace that we're all flawed and we all have bias. And you have to embrace your team. You have to embrace how you're going to put this into your company. You have to listen to everyone else in your team to find out what it means to them. And then there are some things you have to enforce. You have to enforce equal pay. That is not something you can just embrace. Women do not negotiate the same way as men. You have to enforce certain parts of diversity. And I think the only way that you have an inclusive company is by looking at all three of these.
Meera?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Katy said. I think absolutely enforce equal pay and accept that this is important. And if you have trouble accepting it, just take it on the chin anyway and just do it. Like, there's enough evidence why this is important and why you should care about it. So maybe you'll figure it out along the way, and maybe the only way that you see your unconscious bias is by putting yourself in situations where you're forced to encounter it, and the only way that's going to happen is if you start diversifying your environment. So yeah, just do it. Just start doing it already.
Uwe?
I mean, there's no question I think about accepting, embracing, and also some things should be enforced. Then the discussion, of course, gets like more complicated. What exactly should we enforce? What is really helping the cause? How do we value groups versus individuals? But of course, the things that we talked about, equal pay and stuff like that, that should be enforced. And I think this is where the real interesting discussion happens. I think if you're still stuck on accepting and embracing, then, to quote Katy, you're probably an asshole, and that's it's probably not acceptable in this business world anymore.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for coming here. Thanks a lot for this good discussion. And thanks to you for listening. Applause for you. And the next thing here is indeed with Pia, Julia, Ronnie, and Flo. But the name is not how can I make my organization more diverse, but it's on personal brand. So sorry for the wrong slide, but the persons are the right one. The next panel up here is on building a personal brand. Thanks.